couple of things obviously that came out. It's been out for a little while, so sorry for the delay on this one, but always good to at least catch up and give some visibility of what has been released. When talking to Sage, there's been a few things that they've updated, bringing out, and we'll cover off some of these today. So just highlights from a Sage perspective, but generally from our perspective on a menu and what we'll go through a few of those items just highlighted there. Now, firstly, we'll go through Sage Intacct and just have a look at that. And afterwards, you see there is a Martus update as well. Now, I know a lot of you won't be on Martus, but for the ones that are, or someone that's interested from a budgeting and forecasting point of view, please hang around for that. Quite a few interesting things coming out on that side as well. But generally, firstly, on Intacct side, Copilot search help. We'll look at multiple documents on a PO transaction level. Line level matching from a PO perspective. So just talk about a few things on those. Delegation on the AP bills. So, functionality that were enhanced there. And then just around the taxes and some enhancements there around new and updated custom reports and solutions that's available. A few updates on the import service. I think we did touch on one of those previously when it's initially came out. And then updates just around the email capabilities for those of you that actually use the AP automation side of things. There's an additional few updates available, and then the customer refund. So there's a general availability now around customer refund. So that's sort of the points that we'll cover off. For each of those, we'll obviously go into hopefully a bit more detail into what I can show from a product point of view as well, and just give you a bit of an overview. So firstly, just on Copilot. So AI these days are quite on the forefront of everyone and where we're going. So from a Sage perspective, also, Copilot, or, from an AI perspective, there's a few things out there. So the search help has been released, so it has been available. And since R3, you would actually see that in your help menu. So that is there. I don't know if any of you tried that before, but it is basically the ability to interpret natural language. So you asked it a question, it'll come back with a prompt as to what can be done within the solution. So when you look at that, generally, again, from a product point of view, always, refer back to the homepage, your release notes. Those are quite key. A lot of these will be explained there, but I'll try and take you through some of these. So your normal help will still be available, help on this page, but that search help comes through quite handy, what it is, what we want to do. So, I'm going to create a new supplier. So whatever we type in there, it will interpret that and it'll actually start loading that content for you. So it's not just bringing up a particular help file. It will go through step by step and give you a bit of a overview of what needs to happen and where to go. So, feel free to try that out. You can see there's a couple of things, step by step, where to go, what to do. You can also see it will still refer back to your normal help files as well. So I can actually go back into create a supplier and it'll take me through the standard help that's available. But that interpretation of text, how do you do things in the system, you can start utilizing that. So, AI from that perspective, also a big driver on our side from an Intacct point of view and where we're going. So there are a few things that they're working on, obviously in the background, and things that's coming out in the future. So hopefully we'll share that as they come in. So that's probably the first one that I just wanted to touch on, Copilot search. So yeah, feel free to jump in and utilize that. Maybe just one other thing that I've noticed that they changed. So any of the list views. So if you open up any of your transactions basically, or entry screens, anything that basically uses a list view, it will default to that list view now. So that's the new sort of new user interface that they want to promote to you, and that will be used. At this stage, if you prefer the old method, you can always click on the little three dots there and turn off the enhanced lists. It will go back to your typical list as it is now. But generally, as you can see, they start pushing to get people to move across to that lists, to the new list view, as it is one of the things that will come forward as the only thing available at some point. When we move on, the next one, just looking at combining documents easily in purchasing workflow. So it's not just on the purchase invoice side. So there's a few options there, obviously on any of the purchase workflows. When we want to combine multiple documents, so I've placed 3 purchase orders on a supplier, I get one invoice. What do you do? So, they've made that change a little bit easier from a processing point of view and what you can do there. So it's more flexible on that line selection, and that the efficiency always improves as we go along. Now, there's a few things that you would need to do. Firstly, on the purchasing, we need to configure that. So I'll jump back into Intacct again. On my purchasing side, I keep changing them around. I'm going to find it now. There it is. Just on this one, there is a couple of things that we need to enable. So firstly, we want to enable that conversion of multiple source documents. So that's the first, or that's the only thing that you really need to enable on this side. And then when we open up the screen for the first time, you might need to change that if you want to. So just to make things easier, obviously. So on my perspective, I've actually went ahead and changed that already. So if I create a new supplier invoice on this side, I can actually say select my supplier. I will select that in there, choose my currency. I've got a document number. There's my supplier document. And then on the line level, you can see there's a few fields. So by default, it will sit within your show details section. So you can drag that across to the top. So that's the sort of first part. I've already done that. So you can basically select, I want to, invoice purchase order 109 and which line 2 in this instance, and it'll load that line through. Now I can also bring in purchase order, 10, line 1 in this case, it'll bring that line through. So just that ease of use, bringing in additional options to actually, convert multiple documents into a single document going forward. Okay, so a quick one, just remember to combine that. We need to activate that firstly on the purchasing side, and then on that line level, again, if you want to see that like I did on this side, just drag those fields in there through the, if you haven't seen that before, the edit entry layouts, we can drag these in there and we can actually reorganize what this looks like. So that's the important one that we'll have available on the purchasing side that came in as well. Now, one of the new features that came out, which is quite, one that we've been waiting for as well, it is currently still in early adopter. So it's not fully released in Australia yet, but you can apply to form part of that early adopter and start trialing this. So it's basically that line level matching for purchasing. So essentially, if you've got AP automation on, and we've configured this on the purchasing side, if you've done a purchase order historically, as it is today, what will happen is once we bring in an invoice, it will basically convert the entire purchase order, and you will need to update that. With the line level matching, that AI feature would now go through and actually look at the line level, and it'll try and match what's on the invoice to what's on the purchase order. Now, the exceptions that it'll manage there, you'll see there on screen. It'll showcase where there's any exceptions. Now, it will show you any new lines, so net new lines. So, I've got a line on my invoice that I don't have on a purchase order, for instance. So it'll indicate those to you. It'll also show you purchase order lines where there's differences. So, I've got a purchase order line with a quantity, an invoice line with a different quantity, or an amount and a different amount. So those things will be highlighted, and any of those match variances. So all of that will be highlighted. Now, unfortunately, on my side, they changed the early adopter method. I can't apply for it anymore. But on your side, if you open up the release notes and you go into that line level matching, there is a form to complete. So if you do that, you can actually take part in this early adopter program as well. So that can be done on the sales demo side. They don't allow that anymore. I have applied for, having it on my side, so I can hopefully record it at some stage and share that with everyone. At this stage, I can't showcase that because I don't have it active. But there is a way to get that through. And the idea there is utilizing new AI features to look at the invoice, compare that to the source document, and then match the two to show you those exceptions as well. Okay, so quite exciting what we've got from that perspective. But again, as I mentioned, it is early adopter and you can apply for that. Staying with AP automation, in a sense, there is a couple of things that happen. So obviously on the purchasing side, I don't know if anyone noticed, but when you set up the normal workflows around the purchase order side, there's a few more options that's not available on the AP side. So they are bringing those things in line as well. So the first thing that came through is the delegation. So basically on the AP invoices, you were only able to actually set up a approver or number of approvers in there, but no delegation. So at this stage, they've added that in there. So when looking at your AP transactions now or configuration from a workflow perspective, you can physically go in and on the workflow settings, if you've got that enabled, you can go and configure this to also allow delegation. So new feature added in there, and then you can obviously manage the delegation. This can be done on the user level or user group level. So again, if someone's away, we can actually substitute a user in or a user group in as well. So that's the first part. Obviously, not the last thing that will come out on this area. Other things that they are looking at is, the dates. Obviously, we know someone's away between the 31st and 15th of September. That can then be set as well. So that is coming at some stage. So hopefully R4 that will be there. Initially at this stage, what they brought in is just the option to delegate on the AP side, so we can set up the delegations. But going forward, the idea there would be to allow that automated response in a sense to say, you know what, yes, I've set up a delegation. I don't need to worry about it again. It will automatically stop being delegated at a certain date and time. Okay, so that's the things to look forward to. At this stage, you can configure the delegation on the AP side and get those workflows configured the way you need to if someone's away. Now, an interesting new one. So they're doing a bit of enhancements on the email. So again, around the AP automation. So there's a domain change that they've done, and you'll see the main component there. If you look at it, it's going to change from @sagemail.com to @ai.sage.com. Now, there's a few benefits that will come from there. So you can set up some auto forwarding rules using the new ai.com or ai.sage.com domain. We can also then utilize inline attachments. So if there's an attachment in the body of the email, it doesn't have to be an actual attachment at the top level. We do have the capability then to read it from the body of the email. Text from the email body can also be read and interpreted. And then the other one is an image from my iPhone. So that image file can now, or file format can now be sent through to Intacct, and it can also interpret that and read it. Now, it is available already, so you can go to that. One thing to note is, come November, so just looking at this date there, November 25. So when we look at R4 coming out, all companies will move automatically to the new mail. So there will be a change in the domain. So just take note of that. It will happen, and the new domain will be in place. You can choose to switch earlier as well. Okay. Now, on the previous one, we spoke about some new tax options available around New Zealand and Singapore. So that's there. With that, they also brought in some new reports. So if you've activated any of those new tax legislations or tax solutions, you can download some of these reports, or we can download it for you. But basically providing out the box simple tax reports that you can start using with these solutions as well. So maybe just a quick recap on that. Looking at taxes, you now have New Zealand and Singapore out the box. So those are things that can be sort of implemented. The other thing, when we look at that, you also have the ability to create your own tax report. So that's quite a new one, where we basically say, I want to create some tax boxes. And what that means is I can decide for Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, I can create my own format. What needs to happen in box 1? I want the net and tax amount. So if we look at that one, for instance, it's going to say, you know what, I'll just edit this so you'll see what's available. So for this one, I can give it a label. So what it is, what we need to include. So it's just, negative to 0 or absolute truncate round. What's the box type? We decide what information to show there. And then the transaction type. Is it just debit or credit transactions, or both? And then related to this particular solution that you're working on, which detailed tax codes do we want to include as part of that box when we do the reporting? So you can define those as well. Like I said, the idea behind this release was more, out-the-box reports that you can use, but I thought I'll just highlight these as well that you can do. When we set these up, there's these tax filing definitions as well. So you can set up, for Singapore, for instance, I can set up what that looks like. I haven't done much on this one, but it's basically box 1 and box 2 that I've added in there, and the column types or column names that we want to include as part of that report. And then you can print that out. So that's some of the new features just on the taxes. But remember, if you are interested in getting those new reports, reach out to us or download those new reports, and they can be allocated to your instance as well. Basically, allowing those reporting to happen as they come in. Alrighty. One of the other exciting ones that they've brought into the advanced ownership consolidation. So just to sort of recap there, we've got a few consolidation modules available that could be subscribed to. So you've got the domestic consolidation. So basically you've got all Australian, all New Zealand entities. You can actually consolidate, do elimination on those entities. If you've got global consolidations, that's across currencies. So if you've got New Zealand and Australia or Singapore or wherever you are, those multi-currency transactions can be, consolidated using the global consolidation, where there's currency conversions, auto elimination as part of that process. Within the advanced ownership consolidation, that's one that exists already, but that's basically, catering for partial ownership, minority interest reporting, those type of things can be done, and also tiered consolidation. Now, when we brought in the equity method, again, this is an early adopter, so from that from the release notes, you can apply for this one, and it can be activated. But basically, allowing you to, if you use the advanced ownership consolidation, you can set up a structure where we can say, in this instance, you can see entity 401. There's 30% that belongs to, that's owned by entity 400, and 40% that's owned by entity 200. So it's one entity that's got multiple ownership. So that equity method basically allows us to say, if we look at that consolidation roll up, of that 100,000, 30% goes into, entity 400. So that goes in there. If we roll that up, that's a 200 plus the 30. So from the 230, 40% goes into that entity. So based on that structure. So it gives you that flexibility to take the equity method to roll up consolidation into multiple entities and into tiered levels of consolidation as well. Okay, so a few things coming out there, quite interesting. And remember as well, when we start looking at consolidation, you can either use, when we look at the intercompany transactions, from a mapping perspective, you can either use the GL account, the due to and due from, or we can use that dimension method that we released earlier as well. So those options still available. It's just adding on to the functionality that we've got now to bring that out. Looking at the next section there, recording a customer refund. Now, that is something that's, an idea that came from the community. So, great stuff. It's eventually there. It is basically the ability to record a refund if it's already done to the customer. So at this stage, we don't have the capacity yet to create a payment file from there. It's basically just to record the transaction. And it supports a couple of different options there. So it is generally available. I think we did speak about it initially when it was an early adopter, but it is generally available. So it is available for everyone at this point. But you can actually do a refund on a credit adjustment, advances, overpayments, balances, or overpayment balances, and any negative invoices. So if there's a negative invoice sitting there, you can refund to a customer as well, or any overpayments that they might have made to you. Now, it is available across normal inter-entity transactions as well. So, between multiple entities, that is there. We can do that via the REST API, and we can also do that via the CSV import. So you can record multiple or bring in bulk refunds as well, if that's needed. Also allow users to create that in draft. So if there's a option we need to authorization before it's created or posted, the user can actually have that delegated authority. One can be able to create the refund. The other needs to post that once it's sort of approved as well. Okay. Now, for this one, there's a few things that's required within the application. So, firstly, on accounts receivable, when we set this up, there's a number of options in the configuration that you need to look at. So firstly, we would need to enable functionality. So under enable functionality, there is the enable recording of the customer refunds. So that's the first section. Once we turn that on the journal side, you will also require to showcase or to populate what the customer refund journal would be that we want to use. And you would also need to bring in, closer to the bottom, there is my customer refunds sequence number. So it's the document sequence. You'll have to create a new refund sequence, and you can then assign that to the record as well. Okay, so ideally, make sure you've got a journal available that you want to utilize, or pick something that's there already. Create the sequence and then come in and switch this on. It'll just make that life easier, or make your life easier from a sequence point of view as to when we bring this in and how to do that. The other thing, obviously, once we've activated this, you would also need to bring in user rights to this. So on those particular roles that we've got available, you would need to go into, mine is on, or an example is on the admin one. On the subscription, we'll go into accounts receivable on the permission side. And then at the bottom there's a new section there for customer refund. So you can select on that user level what they can do. List view add. So we can add that in there. Someone else might be able to post and void that transaction then as well. Okay. So that's the configuration around that. So a nice option to bring in, especially for people that do have overpayments coming in or require refunds to customers that needs to happen. By activating all of that, when we go into the transaction side, you'll see there's a new area under the payment side called refunds. So at this stage, I'm just going to quickly add a new one. In my instance, I'll select one of my customers, Easy Services, which bank I use to actually pay them for, and the currency. I've got multiple currencies on mine, so I'll just use AUD. Once I've selected that, you'll see at the bottom, it will showcase anything that we can apply this to. So there's a refund. I actually want to refund that entire amount that we want to do, or, I mean, you can actually specify what the refund amount is. I only want to refund $500, so it'll update and only do the $500 as well. So you decide what it is, but you've got the ability to, any of the supported transactions being, credit adjustments, advances, overpayment balances, or negative invoices, they will be there. You'll see the credit type will be listed, and you can see what they are. Select the refund or select the document to be refund, and we can actually post that or draft that in there. Okay. Like I said, at this stage, it's basically just the recording of that. The posting will happen accordingly, so it'll process the refund. But it's just against the bank and the customer account. There's nothing that goes out to the actual bank. Obviously, going forward, we are looking and enhancing the features there as well. But at this stage, giving you the ability to record that refund on the customer record for anything that we've done so far. Now, just on the next one, looking at my email domain validation. So again, I think this one's been around for a while. You'll see that they've updated the little action icon there. It's immediate action required. It's all around your domain protection, so avoiding any phishing attacks there, improve deliverability to making sure that emails from your domain gets delivered to where they intended to go, avoid any of the spam folders and those sort of things, and obviously stronger security around that. So please, for the ones that hasn't done that, I think it has been mandatory since May. Please, if you haven't done that, please go and do that, just to ensure that any of the domain validations that you've got in there is validated. So you can see there's some that's authenticated, but we need to ensure that it's validated, and we can continue to use that. Righty. From our Sage Intelligent Time, so there's a few features. There's two you'll see that's only US only at this stage. So a number of the other things coming out. The trial run, in a sense, is in the US, so it gets released there. Once it passes either early adopter and general availability, it rolls out into our markets as well. So at this stage, we've got this. We can customize the time entry layout. So if you use, time entry within the module, we've got the ability to then go in and modify that. So I'm going to go in, just look at my time preferences at this stage. Because I'm using Sage Intelligent Time, it's all bringing into that area. And then within the time tracking, you'll see there's my timesheet dimension order. So I can start changing this. So, I want to bring that billable flag to the front. So, we know if it's billable or not before we start doing anything. Important, I want the location first and then the project and task. So we can change that. On the detail level, again, the same thing. I'll need my dimensions first and then I leave the notes, and I want my class dimension right at the top, and we can bring that in. So easy ability to just change the way that time tracking works. We can save that and you can start recording time. Now, one of the things that I think I mentioned previously, but we'd never really looked at it, is, timesheet entry. That's there. But the other one is time clocks. So when you've got people working with time, timesheet entry is one thing, but you can actually allow them, either through Intacct or through the Intelligent Time app, come in and start a time clock as well. So basically what that means is they'll start a new clock. You'll see, I think mine is still running here. There's a created time clock for a particular project, task, time, if it's billable, service, location, description, notes. We can start that and they can leave that running. Basically do whatever they need to do, come back and then either clock out or start a break. So you can see there's the break, it starts, and we can actually record that. So it gives them the flexibility from a normal timesheet perspective to clock in and clock out around normal work on projects that we're busy with. So on this stage, if I end my break, we can see I had a 14-second break, great stuff, and I can continue my shift. And then at the end of the day, we can clock out and it'll actually update the timesheet in there as well. Okay, so it gives you a bit of flexibility around how to record time. We still have the normal timesheet entry, but if they want to look at the time clocks, it is available. We can start that as well, to give them that flexibility. If you've got rights, if we really want to do that, clock watches, you can actually have a staff time clock as well. So we can actually create a time clock for a particular staff member, start it on their behalf, record their breaks. So minimize, entry into the system really. Have someone responsible doing that and recording the time within the application is also still available. So that's quite an interesting one from a time perspective. So we've got the intelligent time. We've showcased that with AI descriptions coming in, the ability to enter time, ability to run a time clock on there as well, and then just that changing of what that looks like when we do the time entry has come to light now. On the next one, looking at our project revenue recognition. So they have changed this a bit. I haven't actually done anything on mine, but it is generally available. So the idea there is to base your revenue recognition on actual cost. So there's 3 methods there. It's completion. So if it's actually on the completed way. So any cost that's incurred against the budget, we can then, the revenue portion associated to that can then be calculated and recognized. Or on a time frame. So, based on a specific period that we do, we can recognize revenue based on that, but also based on the actual cost that were achieved there. And then we can also match revenue to the actual cost. So that's the last one for that same period. So, a number of methods there just to enhance the way that revenue recognition is done around the project management or the project module that we've got there. Okay. Now, the last section that I wanted to cover off is just around Martus. So, as many of you know, Martus is also cloud-based. We use that for our budgeting and forecasting in a lot of instances. Now, when we bring this into effect, a lot of the things that will come out, you'll see there, Martus support, webinars, release notes. So there's release notes that come out. Once you open that, I've opened that a new one, you'll see there's quite a few releases that has come out. So generally, when you start looking at these, there's options to come in. So you'll see the dates as well, when things are released and when they're available. But giving you just some options as to how things are done and how we can do things. You'll see now we can set up branding, for instance. So once you do branding within the application, it gives you the flexibility to bring in your own logo and decide where to put that on the emails or on the masthead there at the top. So those things you can define. So bring the branding in. When we create our budget workbooks as well. So from a planner setup, these things have changed a bit to streamline the process. So when you create a new budget, we give it a name, we give it a year based on what we've got there. But then from a method perspective, so this has changed a little bit. I want to copy a budget. I want to create an empty budget, empty, quite easy. We get that across. If we copy the budget and we want to load actuals in there, or just copy the budget, you've got some options there. I want to bring this from an existing year, and we can select that from a prior year and an actual budget there as well. Opening up the advanced options, the same features that you had previously. So it's just more normalized, so we can decide what it is that we want to include. By default, everything is selected, and we can still utilize that to create that basic budget. So, copying the layout, copying all the workbooks, copying the line values, owners, approvers, targets, and then also copy and post the special purpose worksheets that you can do for assumptions on those budgets. So those things can come across as well, really giving you some flexibility of how to utilize the application there and what we've got available. Now, one of the other key features that they brought in really around their report builder and the functions that they enhanced there is, the report builder has been around a while. You can see they provide a number of templates, so we can decide, this is a template that I want to use to showcase some of my actuals, some of my budgets to my broader audience. So there's a template to create a report. But at this stage, if I create a new report on this side, when I generate the report, by default, it will try and load a budget report because it is a budgeting software. So you'll see there's the budget for, a couple of periods there. So for my current year, it's a year to date. I'm in July. That's what it'll do. What they've added is really this report builder assistant. Now, this is a AI generated report essentially. So what they've done is, again, normalized text. I want to create create 12 individual monthly actual versus budget comparisons, including a total year-to-date comparison, and add another budget versus last year budget below this report and a year-to-date actual with department grouping below that. So, I'm not going into the report designer doing anything specific there. I've actually told the report writer or the AI engine there what it is that we need to generate. It will interpret that. It'll try and get that out. Obviously, it'll take a bit of time just to think about what it is that you asked and the level of detail that we need to bring in there. But ultimately, once that has been interpreted, it will start generating the report. And in that instance, we can then start modifying. So you still have the flexibility to go and change what is generated. It's not a set in stone, obviously. But in this instance, those reports will come out. You can see it's now busy generating it. So it'll come out shortly, and we can see the details there. Now from there, once that opens up, you see I still have all my edit options available, but essentially there's my per month actual versus budget with the variance that's came out. Scrolling to the right, that's a full 12 months. And then I also have a year to date with the variance there. Now, I've also asked the report to generate another report below that. There's my last year budget versus this year budget with the variance. So again, it comes out, it showcases what is there. And then I've just done a year to date on revenue expenses, but grouped by my particular dimensions that I had available. So a quick way just to get this in there. And again, if we take this out of edit mode, there's a typical report layout that comes out, and we can still edit this and get it in the way we need to. This can be saved, full refresh, a couple of options there. But ultimately, just an easier way to generate reports within the solution to assist users in creating what they want to see when they're busy with their budgeting process and getting the details out that they need to.